Distinguished guests, the President of the United States, accompanied by U.S. Small Business Administrator Isabel Casillas Guzman, small business owner Natalie King, and today's panelists, Sarah Blakely, Melissa Butler, and Payal Kadakia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the East Room of the White House. That's right, we are launching SBA's second annual Women's Business Summit in the White House. Amazing to fill this White House with so many incredible entrepreneurs. I see you all, you are advocates, I see all you, and including our chairman of the Senate Small Business Committee, Senator Cardin. Thank you, President Biden, for hosting us. And thank you, Mr. President, for your unwavering commitment to small businesses. In fact, there's been a historic small business boom under your leadership. And that's because from day one, President Biden has been a champion for American entrepreneurs, from the smallest of the small, initially left out of COVID relief, who reopened and thrived thanks to his American Rescue Plan, to the inventors, manufacturers, supply chain companies, and contractors seeing growth opportunities thanks to his historic investments in American infrastructure and clean energy, and to our Main Street job creators who are benefiting from legislation that lowers the costs of healthcare and prescription drugs for their workers. And he sees us. He knows women are leading the way as they continue to grow, innovate, compete, and lift up neighborhoods and communities across the nation. Which brings me to Natalie King. Natalie is the founder and CEO of Dunamis Clean Energy Partners, a multi-million-dollar manufacturing company with over 135 workers throughout Southeast Michigan. That is right, it's a big accomplishment. And she is helping to deliver our clean energy future. I was blown away when I first heard Natalie's story when I met her as a recipient of SBA's programs while I was celebrating Women's History Month last year in Detroit. And she launched Dunamis in 2012 as an energy efficiency firm, helping businesses use green energy to lower costs. But she saw the future and imagined the possibilities. So just 3 years after founding the business, she pivoted, and Dunamis began manufacturing LED lighting. And early last year, she announced they'd expand to produce electric vehicle charging stations as well. And Natalie isn't just imagining the possibilities for herself. She chose to start her business in her native Detroit. That's where she was born and raised. And because she wanted to give back and lift up her community. And she's doing just that. By the end of the year, Dunamis estimates they will create 100 new jobs and expects to double that to create 200 new jobs by 2025. And that's what happens when women lead. So everyone, welcome one of the entrepreneurial faces of the clean energy economy, Natalie King.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Administrator Guzman, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction and for having me at the second annual SBA Women's Business Summit. Again, my name is Natalie King, and I am the founder and CEO of Dunamis Clean Energy Partners and Dunamis Charge, which is an electric vehicle charging manufacturing company located right in the heart of the city of Detroit. And we are the first African-American woman-owned electric vehicle charger manufacturer in this world. Thank you. We currently employ over 135 workers, and we are on track to manufacture over 400,000 chargers by 2025, adding more than 150 good-paying jobs, including charger technicians, material handlers, engineers, and much, much more. I started Dunamis in 2012, and because I believe that clean energy technology gives entrepreneurs a true opportunity to do good for our communities while being good at what we do. Our success would not have been possible without the support that we received, really critical support that we received, especially during COVID from the U.S. Small Business Administration, and it made it possible for us to maintain our workforce during the pandemic. And as a result of President Biden's strong commitment to supporting small businesses and his investments in clean energy and manufacturing, we are growing, we are innovating, and we are optimistic about our future. The president often asks, where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? Well, as a native Detroiter, hailing from the automotive capital of the world and the CEO of a manufacturing business, I can say confidently, Mr. President, it is not written anywhere. At Dunamis Charge, we believe electric vehicles are for everyone. And I'm proud to say that this country has a president that holds the same belief and who fights for small businesses that look like mine. So with that, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce to you the President of the United States, Mr. President Joe Biden.
Thank you. My name is Joe Biden. I'm Dr. Joe Biden's husband. And I ate Jenny's ice cream, chocolate chip. I came down because I heard there was chocolate chip ice cream. By the way, I have a whole refrigerator full upstairs. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. God. Ben, how are you, pal? One of the best guys in the United States Congress, Ben Cardin. Folks, welcome to the White House. It's a delight to have you all here. And who are those good-looking kids back there? They're your kids, all four of them? Well, stand up, guys. Well, I want you to know, like you, I had two brothers, three in our family, three brothers, and one sister. And my sister is smarter than all of us. Not a joke. She used to be 3 years younger than me. Now she's 23 years younger than me. Yeah. She managed every one of my campaigns for office, even back when I was in high school. We went to the same university 2 years apart. She graduated with honors. I graduated. And we had a simple rule in the family. Listen to Val. My sister Valerie is incredible. So guys, be nice to your sister. You're going to need her. You're going to need her, I promise. It's the same lineup. You're the oldest? Who's number two? Number two? Who's number three? You're twins? Are you guys twins? Okay. All right. This how it was in our outfit. Well, I'm so glad to see you all. Thanks for coming with Mom, okay? You got to take care of your mom. Dads are much harder to raise, but, you know. Before I begin to speak, the reason I spend a little time in the kids, I just want to speak very briefly about the school shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. You know, Ben and I have been doing this our whole careers, it seems. And it's just, it's sick. You know, we're still gathering the facts of what happened and why. And we do know that as of now, there are a number of people who did not make it, including children. It's heartbreaking, a family's worst nightmare. And I want to commend the police who responded incredibly swiftly, within minutes, to end the danger. We're monitoring the situation really closely, Ben, as you know, and we have to do more to stop gun violence. It's ripping our communities apart, ripping the soul of this nation, ripping at the very soul of the nation. And we have to do more to protect our schools so they aren't turned into prisons. You know, the shooter in this situation reportedly had 2 assault weapons and a pistol, 2 AK-47. So I call on Congress again to pass my assault weapons ban. It's about time that we begin to make some more progress, but there's more to learn. But I just wanted to send my concern and hearts out to so many parents out there. I've been to so many of these sites, as Ben knows, by virtually every one. And one of the things you folks should, I know you do know, but you should focus on. You know, just like when in the military, when my son was in Iraq for a year, other places, there's so many members of the military coming back with post-traumatic stress after witnessing the violence and participating in it. Well, these children, these teachers, you should be focusing on their mental health as well. And so I'm grateful anyway. Sorry to start off that way, but I couldn't begin without acknowledging what happened. And now I'm grateful that all of you are joining us here today. Natalie, thank you for that introduction and for doing such an amazing thing in Detroit. Detroit, making charges for electric vehicles in the Motor City, keeping going during the pandemic. And I wanted to welcome your son, Diop. Where's Diop? Oh, there you are, pal. How are you? You got to be proud of your mom. You got to be proud of your mom. And thanks to folks like Natalie in cities and towns all across America, we're seeing pride coming back. You know, there's nothing that just sort of saps the pride of a city or a town when they lose a business, lose a significant employer. It just feels like you got your soul ripped out. But for so many people, you're bringing so many people back. You're bringing back business all across America, not just in the East and West Coast. So look, SBA Administrator Guzman, I want to thank you for everything you've done and for your team too, supporting small businesses across America. We're also joined, as I said, by Senator Cardin, the chair of the powerful Small Business Committee, and literally, not figuratively, a true champion of businesses everywhere. And by the way, he's got more integrity in his little finger than most people have in their whole body. I mean, and most of all, thank all of you, small business owners and entrepreneurs who have joined us today. That includes 3 incredible panelists. Sarah started her business out of her apartment with $5,000 in a startup capital. And now she built it just a little old billion-dollar company. Oh. As my mother would say, God love you, dear. Whoa. Guys, you're going to be okay. Melissa began her business in a kitchen while working on Wall Street. Now it's the largest Black-owned makeup company sold in Target stores all across America. And Powell combined her business training with her lifelong passion for dance and created an exercise platform that has been used in 2,500 cities around the world. And by the way, you were here a couple months ago, performing with the dance company for Diwali celebration. You got it all, kid. You got it all. I'm not sure what's in the cards today about dancing. I'm not making any promises, but just know she can. And these women know what it takes to start a company out of nothing and build it into something that's consequential. You know, and they know how many women out there have the talent, the skills, and the commitment to start successful businesses if they only had the opportunity. I used to have a friend who was a great basketball player, and his name was Pete McLaughlin. He used to say, you got to know how to know. You got to know how to know. And that's part of what the SBA is all about, letting people know how to know. Today, it's all about lifting up women entrepreneurs and making sure they have the support they need to succeed. The businesses represented in this room stretch across industries from restaurants to architectural firms to hardware stores, plus Jenny's splendid ice cream. And by the way, it is splendid. You think I'm joking. If I were allowed to take you upstairs, I got a whole freezer full of Jenny's chocolate chip ice cream. You know, it's pretty dull when you've been in public life as long as I have. You're known for two things, chocolate chip ice cream and Ray-Ban sunglasses. But what the hell, you know? Look, you're entrepreneurs, you're innovators, you're job creators, and small businesses are the engine of our economy. The absolute engine are the glue in the heart and the soul of our communities. 12 million businesses across America are owned by women, 12 million. Small businesses like yours account for 40%. You account for 40% of the nation's GDP. You create 2/3 of all the new jobs, and you employ nearly half of all private sector workers. For an American economy is to be strong, it's going to have a strong, small business base. It has to be strong. We learned that again during the pandemic. When I came into office, this economy was reeling. Small businesses were hurting. Literally hundreds of thousands of small businesses had closed across the country. Millions of Americans, many of whom worked in small businesses, lost their jobs through no fault of their own. To jumpstart America's economic recovery, we needed to help the small businesses, and we needed to help them fast. So we got to work. I signed the American Rescue Plan. Since I took office, we've delivered more than $450 billion in emergency relief to 6 million small businesses to help you pay your bills, to pay your workers, to keep your doors open. We gave additional support to more than 100,000 restaurants, more than 13,000 live entertainment venues, which were especially hard hit. And we powered historic assistance to 220,000 child care centers, 90% of which are owned and staffed by women. By keeping those centers open, millions of women keep their job. Working parents could go to work again, knowing their children were being cared for. It's constant, they're all connected. All this is closely connected. Today, thanks to actions like these, we've achieved the fastest, strongest, most equitable recovery in American history. We've created 12.4 million new jobs. That's more jobs. That's more jobs in 2 years than any president has created in a 4-year term. And a majority of those jobs are held by women. Unemployment is near a 50-year low, and record number of people have applied to start new businesses. Nearly 10,500,000 applications in the past 2 years. You know, as all of you know, every time someone moves to start a new business, it's an act of hope. It's an act of hope. We're seeing a lot of these across the country, a lot of hope. And once again, it's women leading the way. In 2021, women started nearly half of all the new business in the United States, up from less than a third having been started by them in 2019. Women-owned businesses like yours add $1.8 trillion to America's GDP every year, and that number grows. And now we'll keep that progress going. And you know that Small Business Administration runs a network of women's business centers across. You got to know how to know. You got to know how to know across all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico as well. These are places where women who want to start or grow a small business can get free business counseling, apply for an SBA loan, and compete for federal contracts. Today, I'm announcing that we're expanding the network of women's business centers to 160 centers nationwide, the largest number of all of American history. Plus, through the American Rescue Plan, we're investing $10 billion to to make capital available to small businesses. $10 billion is going to programs run by states and U.S. territories and tribal governments, which then are matched with public and private dollars, leveraging tens of billions more for small business. It's about leverage. This is vital because we know that plenty of companies with potential don't get off the ground or can't grow because they can't get the startup funds or venture capital. This can be a major barrier for women entrepreneurs. Last year, startups with all women teams received less than 2% of all the venture capital dollars. My administration, and in particular Vice President Harris, are working hard to change those numbers so more Americans with great ideas and strong plans can get the boost they need to launch successful businesses. Because, by the way, it helps everybody. It helps everybody. And then as we implement major pieces of legislation that I signed into law during the past 2 years, we're ensuring that women are fully at the table. And I mean that sincerely. From the historic bipartisan infrastructure law, rebuilding roads, bridges, water systems, high-speed internet, all across America. We're investing at over $1.2 trillion. If we're going to be the leading country in the world economically, we have to have a leading infrastructure in the world. And we rank near the bottom of major companies now. Countries, I should say. The CHIPS and Science Act, I had trouble convincing people of this, but investing hundreds of billions of dollars, $300 billion, to restore America's technological edge including by manufacturing semiconductor chips. By the way, we invented those chips. Oh, we did. We, the United States of America. And then we got fat and happy. And it seemed like a lot of major corporations thought it's better to export jobs to get cheaper jobs and import product. Not anymore. By the way, for the first time, firms receiving significant federal dollars will have to make sure the high-quality child care is available to their workers. So parents can keep their jobs and keep good jobs. You know, by the way, those so-called fabs where they build these computer chips, you know what the average salary is going to be in the fab? $130,000. And you don't need a college education. The Inflation Reduction Act, our country's biggest investment in climate ever, anywhere. Across all these laws, we're making sure that women have access to new jobs and new contracting opportunities in sectors where they've been historically underrepresented, from manufacturing to construction to clean energy. And by the way, I'm known as America's most pro-labor senator. Well, guess what? And then as president, well, guess what? They're, in fact, increasing the number of women who are in labor unions. It's got to be. Oh, no, you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. Women are more than 50% of the population, to state the obvious. We want to have the strongest economy in the world. We can't leave half the workforce behind. It's that simple. And when we make major investments like these, small businesses are going to benefit as well. Last year, I went up to Syracuse, New York, where I went to school. Micron Technology, a big semiconductor chip manufacturing, is investing $100 billion to build a huge manufacturing facility, so-called megafab. Well, guess what? It's going to create 9,000 good-paying jobs. I met women there named Shawnee Davis. She studied at Syracuse University. Her dad introduced her to electrical work. He was an electrician. She joined the IBW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, completed her apprenticeship, was the first black woman in the city to become a master electrician. Now she owns her own electrical business. And with Micron making this huge investment in central New York, thanks to the law we passed and pushed, that means more opportunity for her company and her workers. And here's what she said. She said, I'm a small business now, but I'm not planning to stay a small business. Well, all of you in this room know that kind of determination. That entrepreneurial drive is the heart of America's spirit. And we have to be unleashing it by helping more women entrepreneurs launch their businesses and achieve their dreams. Let me close with this. During Women's History Month, we recognize the history of women entrepreneurs in America. And it stretches back centuries. But it was only 35 years ago, in 1988, that the Women's Business Ownership Act was signed into law. Before then, in many states, if a woman applied for a business loan, she needed her husband, her father, or her brother to co-sign for her. I'm not joking. When I passed the Violence Against Women Act, I eliminated that principle. You used to have to get a bank account, too. Can you imagine? Well, thanks to all of you, we're making up for lost time. And for the women, for all the women who through decades have dreamed of having their own business, making their own money, carving out the slice of independence, but couldn't because the laws wouldn't let them or they didn't have the money or family support. That's why what you're doing today, along with women across the country, is so important. You're helping America be a company where everyone can participate, where everyone's contribution is valued, and where everyone has the freedom to pursue the dreams and build the future that they dream of. That's been the promise of our nation from the start. And you're making it real for this generation and future generations. Because of you, we're going to continue our progress in the years ahead. You may have heard me say it before, but I can honestly say it without fear of contradiction. I've never been more optimistic. I mean this when I've been doing this. I know I don't look it, but I've been doing this a long time. I need one of you to help me out here. But anyway, I've been doing this a long time. But I've never been more optimistic about America's future than I am today. I mean it sincerely. We just said, remember who in the hell we are. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity when we set our mind to it. Nothing. So beyond, I mean it. I mean it. That's when they asked me if I could only do one thing, what would I do? I said I'd cure cancer. They said, why is that? It's not just because cancer affects so many people. It's a big thing. And Americans began to wonder whether they could do big things anymore. Well, guess what? We're going to cure cancer. We're going to cure cancer in the next 25 years. We've just invested $5 billion more than I used to do it. So look, on behalf of a grateful nation, I want to thank you all because you're such an inspiration to so many men and women around the country. You really are. You truly are. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Folks, I can't stay. I've got to go. But I hope you have a good conference here, and I hope you have a good round table. And there's a little thing going on around the world. Anyway, thank you so very, very much for everything.
But I am so honored to be joined now by a panel of incredible entrepreneurs who, with their leadership, are going to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs and empower us all to imagine the possibilities ourselves and make sure that we are making the most of all of our American dreams of entrepreneurship. So I want to welcome up our incredible panelists. Let's start first by welcoming back Natalie. Natalie, of course, founder of Dunamis. And then we also have Payal Kadakia, who is the founder and former CEO of ClassPass. And then Melissa Butler, CEO of Lip Bar. Woo. And, of course, we have Sarah Blakely, the founder and former CEO of Spanx. Woohoo! Wow. I mean, this is an incredible panel. And I think, in the audience, we have successful entrepreneurs that I've met in my travels, from manufacturing to restaurants to you name it, our incredible women's business centers and our incredible advocates for capital access that women need so much. And I think that, but we're going to get to experience really, your experiences and your insights, especially for those 10.5 million new businesses out there, and the half of them that are women, because, just going back, you've launched and you've grown and you've managed thriving businesses. But I think if you can take us back, to some of those early days in your organizations and tell us a little bit more about a moment when you faced an enormous challenge and what you did, because I think to get to know how you got through it, how that changed the way you operated, and at that point, when you knew that you'd finally just make it through anything after that challenge. But let's please start to share just a little bit more about your experience. And Sarah, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, I'll kick you off. Thanks for having me. I would say, I think the first big challenge that most entrepreneurs face is getting the product made. And at the time, I was a 27-year-old girl from Clearwater Beach, Florida, with no business experience, driving around North Carolina, begging a bunch of men who owned the factories and made all of our undergarments to help make my idea. And it may sound cliche, but I think one of the reasons I actually got one of the factory owners to make my product was my own passion and my own determination. I got rejected from everyone. They all sent me away, and this one factory owner called me and he said, Sarah, I don't understand this product you want to make. I really don't even get it, but your passion and your determination that this is something women really will like has stuck with me, and I'm going to give you a chance. And so that was a big obstacle that I had to overcome, but it's always, for me in the beginning, it was press. How are people going to learn about what I'm making? And then where is it going to be sold? And so I made a list of everywhere that I could get free press because I had no money to advertise. And number one on my list was Oprah Winfrey and the Oprah Winfrey Show. So I started sending my product to Oprah, and I got a chance to be on her show, which was a huge solve and unlock for me. Amazing. And then when I got into all the major department stores, Neiman Saks, Nordstrom was such a big deal, I realized very quickly that my biggest challenge was where I was sold in the store. They put me in the sleepiest corner of the store. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you think you get the big order or the big opportunity and you've arrived, and that's when the hard work starts. And so I spent 2 years going to every department store in the country and selling the product for them in their own stores. And I took it out of the hosiery department, set up a table in the entrance, and flashed my Spanx to everybody who came in the door.
That's amazing. Melissa?
So I think small businesses, particularly women in this country, we don't know what we don't know. And so I started my business in such a scrappy way. I was working on Wall Street, and I was so frustrated with the beauty industry. Its lack of diversity, its excessive amounts of chemicals, this idea that beauty looked like one thing. And I was like, okay, Melissa, you're not a makeup artist, but you can still change this. So number one, having the mindset to go after entrepreneurship, I think, is the biggest hurdle. Like choosing that you can be the change that you want to see, I think, is number one. And then it's like, well, what do I do if I have nothing? I'm starting from ground zero. I have no money. I have no expertise. I have no team. But it's really that sheer determination that says, I want to make sure that girls who look like me can grow up and know that they are beautiful and have that confidence that kept me going. So I was just a crazy learner. I started reading books on cosmetic chemistry. I started reaching out to mentors, cosmetic chemists, people who were in the beauty industry, because what do I know? I'm like in Excel. I'm working on Wall Street. I don't know anything about makeup. And so I started making lipstick in my kitchen, not because I thought that was the best thing to do. I honestly thought it was my only option. And when you don't have resources, when you don't have mentorship, when you don't really know the path forward, you really just work with what you have. And I think that it is powerful, but also it can really hinder growth. And so for the first 3 years of the Lip Bar, I literally made every single product with my bare hands. People will say to me oh, Melissa, oh my God, I still have one of those original lipsticks. I still have it. I'm like, please throw it away. It is moldy. I did not know what I was doing. I wasn't using the right preservatives. You had to put that stuff in the refrigerator. But it's I was, seriously, but I was so determined to go after more. And I know that women deserved more. We deserve to know that with or without makeup, we are enough. And I didn't see that in the industry. And so having that mindset to say, I can tackle anything, and then having the scrappiness to go after your dreams was my first big challenge. And honestly, it's still the challenge, because you still have to convince yourself to go after your dreams. The stakes are just higher.
That's amazing. Well, you countered. That's right. You countered the barriers, the obstacles that get put in front of so many women with that sheer determination, but the know-how. I think that's what's so valuable. All right.
I think for me, it's very similar. It's how do you get over failure? And I think as an entrepreneur, you are dealing with that on a daily basis, and you have to learn that failure is a data point, and you really need to move forward. And similar to Sarah, I would say product was the most important thing in the beginning that we had to figure out. And when I started ClassPass in 2011, I worked for a year on a product that I thought was going to work. And we had press, and I got into this huge tech incubator, and I thought everything was going to work. And we launch it, and not a single person books a class. And it's absolute crickets. I'm calling my CTO, asking him, is something wrong? Like, is it not registering the data? And he's like, nope, there is nothing happening. Once again, failure is okay. And you've realized in that moment that you have to get back up. And I think I changed my mindset that day to not be product obsessed, but be mission obsessed. And I wanted to get someone to class, no matter what. It's funny because after that, we launched another product that also kind of didn't work, but that one at least had 20,000 reservations. And ClassPass, in the current form that most people know, has done over 100 million. And I think when you think of those, you realize that pivoting, changing, and iterating is such an important part of the entrepreneurship journey, and to not get stuck. Because if I didn't keep moving, a lot of people wouldn't have worked out and had the experience that they did. And, I think you asked the question of when did you know it worked? And I think there's this false conception that you need, hundreds of thousands of customers using your product to think it's working. And I remember I was also doing customer service, making every reservation for someone. It was when I got a few emails that people told me that this product changed their life and the way that they felt about working out. And when I heard that, I remember in my heart knowing that I had reached the why I had started my product out for. And I think just don't ever give up on that why and keep going for it, even though it might take a little bit more time.
Thank you so much, Paya. That's beautiful. Natalie?
Well, I think that I can echo what all of these beautiful women have said up here. I think that for me, it was really based upon three things: purpose, passion, and perseverance. As women entrepreneurs, we must maintain all three and be very clear on all three of those very specific strategic attributes that we are going to have to abide by as we move forward with our entrepreneurship. So my most difficult challenge was when I decided to go into LED lighting. I'm an attorney by trade. I have no engineering background, no technical background whatsoever, but I had a passion for clean energy technology, and I had that passion since I was, an undergraduate student working for environmental justice nonprofit organizations. When I branched off, it was because of the passion from law to clean energy technology. And I decided that I really wanted to do something in the LED lighting field. And so I partnered with someone because I didn't know anything about it. Now, what ended up happening was that partner took all of my money and didn't show up with the lighting. And so it was my first big contract. And I'm sitting in the bed, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I say to my husband, what am I going to do? And he said, do it yourself. You have the ability to do this. You're smarter than them. Demystify the process. So in no pun intended, but a light bulb went off. And I'm like, wow, I think that I can do this for myself. And I researched. I became a student of that trade to find out everything that I needed to learn about it. And within 2 weeks, I was on a plane over to Asia, finding factories, how I was going to OEM, and that was how I got into manufacturing. And really, it was just a process of evolution and matriculation into knowing that I could do it, knowing that I had the power within to be able to live out that passion with purpose. And it required perseverance. It required a great deal of perseverance and belief in myself. And so I think that overcoming that, demystifying the process, and then having the courage to bet on me, to invest in myself, to take the time to learn, and to put actually my own money behind what we were actually doing, it led me to know that I could do anything that I put my mind to.
Well, yes. You know, in talking about challenges, I mean, obviously our country has just gone through an enormous challenge for all of our entrepreneurs with the COVID pandemic. And, you know, clearly we talked earlier about the fact that, American Rescue Plan was so critical for our small businesses. And, you know, with the 300 million vaccinations that this administration was able to deploy in the first 150 days, we were able to go from, families stuck at home and closed businesses and closed schools, kids not in their seats. And, I think that that has to have been one of the greatest challenges for all of you, to navigate the pandemic and use your great experiences and the knowledge you gained from challenges to overcome. But, I am curious, and I know, Melissa, you and I talked a little bit about this before in particular, but what did reopening the economy mean to you and your business?
Yeah, so, makeup is non-essential, and we had,
Depends on
For the men, for the men.
as
Maybe
much
for the men
as,
too.
as much as I would love for everyone to wake up and put on their favorite lip bar lipstick, the reality is we were all concerned. We were worried. We didn't know, lipstick was the furthest from our concerns. First it was toilet paper. But the reality is, I am in the self-esteem business. It's less about the actual product and more about, how people feel when they get up in the morning and how they are able to take on the day and power through their day. And if you're just at home, on your Zoom, you feel less compelled to put on makeup. A lot of people weren't even putting on pants. And so that being said, we had our work cut out for us. We were really trying to really drive this non-essential category in a way that reminded people of how to feel good and how to feel fully and wholly like themselves. So when the world opened back up, we are also based in Detroit. Hey, we have a small store in the heart of downtown Detroit, and we had just opened it up in 2019. And then 2020, it shut down. We are very fortunate that we're in retailers like Target and Walmart, so those very essential stores were still open for us, but our .com had dropped 40%. Our store had that business had gone to zero. So when the economy was stimulated, when the world opened back up, we had another lifeline. We had another story to tell. We were telling people, this is how you can get your makeup done in 5 minutes or less, because I know that you guys have not been wearing makeup at all, or just putting on a little bit of lipstick just to show up on camera. And so when we thought about how to integrate into the lifestyles of our customers, because the world had opened back up, we were able to tell a more authentic story, a story of women who had been teachers and tutors and chefs and, moms, wives, all of the things for the past 2 years. We were able to say, hey, take a pause and show up for yourself in this moment. And that was all thanks to the world being open back up.
That's amazing. Well, I think the American Rescue Plan really delivered for our small businesses, from my perspective. But I think in how the administration has focused on pivoting and reinvesting in America to make sure that there's a future that looks bright and full of possibilities for more of our entrepreneurs. When President Biden signed the bipartisan infrastructure law, he did set in motion one of the biggest investments in history, that America has ever seen in our critical systems. So everything from clean water, which we all know is so critical, is to our ports and bridges, and to broadband, which of course ensures that our businesses can thrive online, and EV charging stations as well. So Natalie, that means, but it also means that our supply chains are more stable, which I know all of you have had to deal with that. It's easier to grow through trade and e-commerce and bring customers from around the world when we have strong infrastructure and investment in America. But I'm wondering, as we look towards pivoting, and another lesson from the pandemic, how do these kinds of investments impact your business and your planning into the future? And Natalie, I think we should kick off with you, because how should entrepreneurs be thinking about positioning themselves for these opportunities?
It's an extraordinary time right now in this country, and really we are in a fourth industrial revolution. And with that, there are so many opportunities. With respect to dunamis charge, the bipartisan infrastructure law, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act, even the CHIPS Act, has a great impact on our company and the vision that we have for not only the company, but the communities that it will impact. So we intend to take full advantage and to participate in what this Biden administration has done with respect to the investment that is coming down the line for clean energy technologies. But with that, now we have the ability to go out and create jobs, green-collar jobs, high-paying jobs for individuals in all communities, Black and brown communities. We have a very specific focus on communities that have been historically impacted by environmental justice issues, to bring those people in to build the electric vehicle charging stations that we are making right in the city of Detroit. So there are not just direct opportunities, but there are ancillary opportunities that are coming from the investment that this administration has made. And what the SBA did for us in undergirding Dunamis Clean Energy Partners with the financial assistance through IDO and through the PPP loans was to help prepare us to take advantage of the investment that the Biden administration has made in clean energy tech. So I'm very, very excited. And with the CHIPS Act, I mean, for quite some time, we were really, really challenged with not being able to get microchips for our production. And we are very excited now so that we can not only build a product in America by American workers, but we now have the ability to utilize a supply chain that is also in this country, so that Buy America, Build America aspect will be able to incorporate. So,
our next goal will be helping Melissa imagine her dreams around manufacturing in the U.S. as well. We need that. You know, I know that, Sarah, well, all of you have talked about the fact that entrepreneurship is really not for the faint of heart, by really emphasizing how the challenges meant that perseverance, that strength, that confidence that you had to build up internally. And as the first self-made billionaire, Sarah Blakely, I know that you have been an incredible inspirational role model. But I'm wondering, because so often we talk about staying true to yourself and really staying true to your vision and your mission. What do you think you discovered about yourself in this process that you're particularly proud of, or something that you've been able to work on and use to build strength?
Well, when I first started Spanx, I was at a cocktail party, and I had two gentlemen come up to me, and they said, "Sarah, we just read about you in the local paper. We heard you, invented something." And I said, "Yes, I'm so excited about it." And one guy put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Great, well, business is war." And the other guy kind of laughed and, nodded, and they said, "Yeah, business is war. I hope you're ready to go to war." And I went back to my apartment that night, and I sat on the floor of my apartment, and I remember thinking, I don't want to go to war. Like, why does it have to be war? And I was really determined to do it differently. And so I would say what I really learned about myself was, and what I utilized in my own journey, was the feminine. And I think that we are all made up of masculine and feminine energy. We all have both inside of us. I'm deeply grateful for the masculine energy in me that helped me start Spanx, but I was not going to leave the feminine behind. And I feel like business for a long time has been set up to kind of minimize or squash the feminine. And so for 22 years, I owned 100% of Spanx on my own. I started it with $5,000. Because of that, I think I had a real opportunity to honor my intuition, which I think is a real feminine principle. So the guiding principles of my business and my journey were vulnerability, empathy, kindness, and intuition. And I can honestly say that for 22 years, I really put intuition above data and so much else. And I think it's a true superpower. And there's got to be an opportunity more for that to really have a place in business.
Feminine intuition, I agree. That's amazing. That's beautiful. Yes. Hey, Al, would you add to that anything?
So I'll tell you all a little story that President Biden alluded to, but about 6 months ago, I had the honor of performing here, right there, for the President, Vice President, and First Lady with my dance company. And the night before, I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, how did I get here with having the business accomplishments I had and then having this artistic accomplishment? And in my head, I literally just kept going back to my journey, and I realized that both things were a decade in the making, which I think we forget sometimes, that these things take a marathon, they are not a sprint. And I started on my journey, in 2010. I'd started my dance company 3 years before that, but I never gave up on my vision. And if you really read any of the mission statements of ClassPass or my dance company, I never wavered. And I think you're gonna hear so many opinions from people. And the world's also gonna change with trends, right? I remember whether it's my dance company should do hip hop or ClassPass should go into personal training, it's always people trying to move you towards what the trends of the universe are. And I wanted to stick to what I truly wanted to do. And I fought so hard, being a petite Indian woman. In any room I was in, I just stuck with it. And I used my voice, and I never cared what anyone else was going to think, and I went for it. And I think that is something that you have to develop, and you just, I think over and over again, you learn to, if someone's talking over you, you keep talking. It's one of those things I have learned. If someone, puts you in a seat that's lower, you go and put a book on there to go higher. I always made sure that I had a voice and that people could see me. And I think having the confidence, which we were talking a lot about before too, is so important. It's what you really feel inside when you walk into those rooms with, whether it's venture capitalists or your, other investors that you have, or if you're meeting a partnership, you walk in there being all of you. And I think for me, I even realized I have an artistic side to me and a business side to me. And, as Sarah was saying, I think it's putting it all together, and being all of you in one place. I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm all these things, but I love being who I am fully, and the more environments I create where I can be all of me is where I'm going to succeed.
That's beautiful. I definitely want to hear the answer from each of you on this. So Melissa, I know, from Wall Street to starting your company, what did you discover about yourself that you're particularly proud of?
Honestly, that I'm stronger than I thought I was. Wall Street is a very masculine environment, and everyone thought that working on Wall Street was success but me. Everyone in my family was so proud of it, and I got there and I didn't feel like I was being myself. I didn't feel like I was truly serving my community, serving myself, serving my purpose. And it took a lot of strength to walk away from, this good paying job. The only reason I had ever gone to Wall Street is because my goal was to live the American dream. And what I realized is that the American dream is not linear, that I have the ability to create my own version of the American dream. I just had to be strong enough to go after it. So in starting my business is now 11 years old, there have been many failures, some very public, some very private, but every single day something goes wrong, but I look at it as an opportunity to get better. And every time something went wrong, I was able to build more armor or more knowledge that allowed me to persevere and build my business even better, or build it with people who I actually liked. No, seriously, people think that, you have to follow these certain principles of business. But just like you can build your American dream in your own way, you can do that with your life, with your business, with your family, with your community. If you see something wrong, and if you feel that fire burning in the center of your belly, know that you are probably the person to do something about it. And so I learned my strength in this process. I also learned my options, and I got a chance to really get clear with my voice and to remind other people that they too have a voice.
That's beautiful. I love that. Natalie?
Ditto, ditto, ditto. I think that the main thing that I've learned about myself is that I'm fully equipped. I'm enough. And I think that that's really important for every beautiful woman that is in this room, for you to know that you are enough and you're equipped with what it takes to do whatever you have a passion for. It's already in you. And like Melissa said, you know, there are a number of struggles, like everyone has stated up here. You know, we started with very, very humble beginnings. And if we listened to those that were telling us, no, you can't do that, or no, you shouldn't do that, or no, that's not going to work, or no, this is too hard, so that means that you shouldn't do it, then I wouldn't have Melissa on my lips and Sarah on my hips right now. Right now, as we speak. So, yes. So I think that it's very important for us to understand, just as Sarah stated, women have a very special superpower, and that's the intuition, the gut that's in you to say, this is the way to go, wait on this, and stop there, or move forward. And we should listen to that, and we should trust that, and never despise the struggle, because you're going to learn from it. What is your growing edge? So when you fail, you're failing forward. You have the ability to take that lesson to grow and strengthen yourself. When you come up against opposition, when someone isn't believing in you, they're not supporting you, what is it that you're supposed to learn from that? Grow from that and keep moving forward.
That's beautiful. Well, I think, you know, on that note, I always tell entrepreneurs that you do the hard part. You came up with this amazing idea. You laid out the vision. You're working your business every day, but the SBA is here to help you. You know, but I do think, you know, recognizing that, you know, oftentimes there are people in our lives that helped us, whether that was the advice of any of your fellow business people or what have you. And of course, the president just announced that we're going to be expanding our women's business centers. And, you know, talked about the fact that we know that we need to open up access to capital markets so that we can invest in women, because we're not investing enough in our women businesses to help them create the jobs that we know that they can. And so on that, and I think, you know, maybe we'll start on Nian this time with Natalie going first, but just if you could share who or what helped you the most as you were launching your business, and how do you pay it forward?
I would have to attribute that to my parents. They laid a foundation for me where I knew that no matter what, I was supported and that they believed in me. My father is, he's a pastor in the city of Detroit, and he would always say, and to this very day, says two things to myself and my three sisters. One, you're beautiful. And two, you can do anything. And because he told me that from a very, very young age, there's no one in this world that can tell me anything different, and I believe it. And so I think that with that support and that love that I received from my family, I was encouraged to know that I could really go after my dreams and accomplish them. And I've had some really great mentors along the way, brilliant business persons that have, you know, really helped me to lay the path forward. My spouse has helped me greatly and is becoming a big thinker, and again, demystifying processes that I don't understand so that I can actually go about carving the path for myself. So, you know, just my family has been a great, great support and help.
Paya?
For me, it's similar. My parents, who are right here in the audience. You know, I think we say the word American dream, and we don't always know what that means. But I mean, my parents immigrated here with probably less than $10 from India in the 70s, and what they really focused on for me and my sister was education. And I think without having access to that, without being able to have had that as a backbone in my life, I don't think I'd be standing here today. And of course, thank you, Dad, for making sure that I did well on my SATs and got into college. But, you know, I think we forget that sometimes, but it's the knowledge and the education base that I know gave me the foundation to have been able to thrive on top of. And obviously it's the love and support of my parents, as well as so many other mentors. And, you know, I also think that it's about having representation. One of my first mentors was a South Asian woman, and I think if I hadn't seen her do it, I would have never thought that I wasn't supposed to go into finance and consulting, because that was all I was supposed to be doing. And I think it's so important. Being here on this stage today is, for me, that way of making sure that other women can see that they can do it too, and especially other South Asian women.
We definitely stand on the shoulders of our parents, our generation of family members, and the great leaders, and many of them in this room too. So, Melissa?
I've always said that the Lit Bar was a community-based business. And it's truly because there have been so many people to pour into me over the years, starting with my family, my friends who were my first employees, my customers who give me feedback, good or bad. And I think that the most important thing has been that I've been the curious ear on the other side of that. My community has, been forthcoming with their thoughts, with their ideas, with sometimes their money to help me get it off the ground. And every step of the way, I've been grateful, but I've always asked, what do you think? How can I improve? How can I make your life a little bit better? Whether that's me talking to my sister about it or me talking to a customer in Kansas. And so that sort of advice and my ability to take advice from everyone and anyone around me has really helped me evolve the way I think about business and, frankly, the way I think about being a leader. Because I always say anybody can be a CEO. You can just register in your state and you have an LLC and bam, you're a CEO. But it really takes passion and guts to become a true leader, and that's always been what I have aspired to be, and I've always wanted to make impact. And so having that community around me and that listening ear has really allowed me to evolve and iterate time and time again.
That's amazing. Well, that's exactly what we try to build, is that community around our women entrepreneurs. Sarah?
Sure. So I like to say, as soon as you can afford to, hire your weaknesses. And
That's great.
The team around me for the last 22 years is a huge part of why I was able to do what I could do. But as an entrepreneur, we've got to sit down and take a quick inventory of what we're best at and what we are going to contribute to the business that no one else truly can do as well as we can. And for me, I made the list, and it was inventing the product, marketing, face of the brand, and sales, and then everything else I delegated and hired. And that was a huge gift for myself. It allowed my business to grow. Also, I would say another person that was a big part for me as a mentor was a man I never met, and his name was Dr. Wayne Dyer. He is a motivational and inspirational speaker and a real guru on mindset. And when I was 16 years old, I was given cassette tapes of him, dating myself, from my father. From my father. And I started listening to his How to Be a No Limit Person series starting in the 80s. And that was a huge part. So I like to mention that just because your mentors or the people that can make a huge impact in your life can sometimes be people you don't even know. And then, of course, my family. My mom is here, and my mom is an artist, and she actually... Who's that, Mom? Yay! Woo-hoo! So my mom is an artist, and she actually drew the first patent for Spanx that is in the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So... it's a picture of me standing in my living room and just the product, and my mom drew it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I know we're almost near the end, but I wanted to get one more question in if we can. And, I think it could be a rapid round of somewhat, but you could take a little bit of time. But what's one piece of advice, and you've given already some amazing advice, but if you were just rapid round, what's one piece of advice you've gotten, either as an entrepreneur or generally, that has stuck with you? So something else. We want more. So let's start with you, Sarah.
What you don't know can be your greatest asset if you will let it. So if you don't know how it's supposed to be done, guess what? And you do it, you're probably going to do it differently. And true innovation and being an entrepreneur is when you do something the way that no one else has done it. So don't let the fact that you don't know, quote unquote, how it's supposed to be done, honor that voice inside and go for it.
Woo! That's awesome.
I'll just say I think vulnerability is superpower. So from the leadership perspective, no one can do any of the things that we do alone. So having that team, but also being vulnerable with that team and being honest with that team has allowed me to grow, has allowed me to delegate, has allowed me to release some of the things from my plate. And so I can't be uncomfortable with saying, I don't know, to my team. So being vulnerable and allowing them to know what my weaknesses are have really transformed my mindset and my business.
That's great.
I'd say I live by two mottos. One is be so good they can't ignore you, which is a quote by Steve Martin. But I think I've just learned that whenever you doubt yourself, you just feel that, you'll get through it. And the other one is the only thing constant is change. So always remember to stay adaptable and flexible. And I think we've all learned that through the pandemic, but just through entrepreneurship, it's, always keep your eye on the North Star, but keep on moving and adapting, and you'll get there.
That's
I remember someone saying, if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you have to have a team with you. And so with that, just as Sarah stated, hire people that are smarter than you, way smarter than you, and build your team. And I think that is going to be key for every entrepreneur. You can't do this alone. You have to have a village with you to really, push forward in your purpose.
That's amazing. Thank you. Well, everyone, just want to send another great thank you to President Biden for welcoming us into the White House. That's amazing. This is our second annual Women's Business Summit, and we're going to be celebrating it over the next couple of days with some amazing insights from Jenny's Ice Cream, amongst others, Cleo Barger, our manufacturer in aerospace, and others. So I know that it's going to be an exciting time, and I just want to thank you all for kicking us off in such a valuable way that I think, I'm enamored by your success stories and want to keep on shouting them out to the world because you're an inspiration to the next entrepreneurs. Thank you so much, all of you. All right, with that, everyone, thank you to the White House team for joining us here and helping us, and I think we're going to get a chance to mingle a little bit, but thank you for coming.
Great.